Hello, my name is Annalisa, and I am so excited to show you what I've been working on lately. So I have referenced a couple of times on my Instagram and I think in my Inktober video that the reason I am doing very small pieces for Inktober is because I've got a couple of big pieces on the go, and this is one of them. This is my Sea Witch piece. So this is a piece inspired by the character of Ursula from The Little Mermaid, and I got inspired to do this piece because I wanted to do fierce, monstrous women during October. I wanted to do a new series that are similar to my Medusa piece from last year, where I did my own version of Medusa and put her in a little fantasy setting and gave her a weapon. The other ones I'm working on are a centaur lady, dark angel lady who's based on Valkyries, and a witch. And I also wanted to challenge myself in a few ways. One, with putting extra details into these pieces and to have them be sort of a higher quality than some of the pieces I've done in the past. And I also decided, kind of to help with that, to make them on bigger paper than I usually do. Usually I use about an 8x11 format, or sometimes a 6x11 format, but this one I decided to go with a 10x14 format, and that allows me to make the character bigger and thus to put more detail into their faces and other features. So the color choices for this Sea Witch are based mainly on Ursula. She's got the pale lavender skin and the dark purple to black tentacles that flow into sort of a bodice type top, which is kind of a combination of clothing and her skin, which seems kind of weird, but it seemed to work really well in Ariel, so I decided to keep it going, and I really liked how it looked in this piece too. The main thing I changed as far as color scheming is that I gave her black hair instead of white, because I don't know, I liked how it pulled more of the darkness from her tentacle area up into her hair. I didn't like as much the look of it going really dark with her tentacles to light with her skin and then to even lighter with her hair. I like it going dark, light, dark. But you'll see me do the hair a little bit later. For now, I am working on the tentacles, which were a lot of work. First of all, it took a lot to get my watercolors to lay down so darkly. For the darker sections of her tentacles, it took a lot of time and a lot of insistence to get so much pigment into the brush. And then there were the other side of the tentacles, which I made lighter, and then I put loads of suction cups on. Tentacles are such strange things, and one of the things that makes them extra strange is the suction cups. And one of the things that can make octopus paintings and photos so dynamic and interesting is the contrast of the dark side of the tentacles with the lighter side that has all these light, really interestingly textured suction cups. So I decided I definitely wanted to bring that into my piece. And so I did 2 full tentacles with suction cups, and then I put suction cup sections where various of her other tentacles were sort of twisting around, so you might see the other side of them. And I have decided that I want all of my monster ladies to be armed, and I wasn't really sure what to do for this piece. My Medusa has a really big recurve bow, and I'm planning on a spear and a sword for some of my other fantasy women pieces. But I wasn't really sure for this. But eventually I figured that with her being a sea witch and having probably lots of magic and some very big scary tentacles to fight with, she probably doesn't need a very big weapon. So what if she just has a little knife? But she still looks very scary with it. And this also sort of draws on one of the retellings of the Little Mermaid story, which takes place in The Language of Thorns, which is a short story collection by Leigh Bardugo. And in her story, the mermaids cut their tails to turn with magic knives to turn them into legs. And this is a special magical knife, and it has a lot to do with the story going on and with the Ursula character in that story. And so I thought that was a cool sort of reference to that. Then we have the background, and I also wanted to put extra details into the background. There's quite a lot of it, and I wanted it to be also interesting to look at and somewhere your eye could linger when you weren't busy looking at the tentacles. And so I did 3 different layers on this. I did a underlayer that was a mix of black, blue, 2 different kinds of blue, and purple, and very thin, and I laid that down first. Then I let it slightly dry, and after that I put on pure one of my blues, one of my lighter, slightly greener casted blues, so that it would contrast with her tentacles, whereas I thought a purpler blue would fade too much and have too much in common with the tentacles. And so the technique is sort of wet on wet, but it's a very different effect when you use water that has been sort of soaked into the paper from when you use watercolors in water that has not yet soaked into the paper. And so that created a really interesting effect. And then I went over it another time with black because I was also trying to work on improving my whatever it's called, where you have different amounts of light and darkness in your pieces at different layers. So I wanted her tentacles to be one amount of darkness and her skin to be another and the background to be another. And when it just had those 2 layers on, it was the lightness faded in with her skin. And so I wanted it to have a slightly darker background, so I added a layer of black. And another thing I did with the background was I discovered this accidentally by touching my piece with my fingertips while the watercolors were still wet. But when I brought my fingers away, I thought I was going to have to fix that. But then I looked at it a little closer and they looked a lot like bubbles. So I decided that that worked out pretty well and purposely did that on one side of my painting the rest of the time I was making the background. And so that's what those kind of funky marks are on the background. I don't know if you just heard that, but my cat is meowing at me. So now you can see me doing the hair, which I decided to put some blue in. Again, a more green tinge sort of blue. And the way I designed that was based somewhat on some friends I've had who have dyed their hair pretty colors, and also somewhat on Cruella de Vil. Because it's kind of a villain-esque white and black, except this time it's blue and black. Shush, Arwen! Yay. Go away! There, I let her out. And I had a lot of fun with her hair, and I really enjoyed how it turned out. And then I went in for the line work, so I used a few different colors, and I was using my gel pens and also some my Pigma Microns for the black, and then the gel pens for, I think the other colors I used were just dark purple and white. And I went a little crazy with the white because I've enjoyed so much adding highlights to my other pieces, and I really enjoyed it on this one too. I put it all over her tentacles, kind of trying to get the light to come from the same direction, but not necessarily succeeding. And on her top, because I didn't feel like that was standing out enough, and all through her hair, and I really like how that looked. And I also really like how it looked on her lips. I feel like that made them pop a lot better. And then I went in to try to add details to her face. I figure now that the blue for blush color was a mistake. I should have used purple and then used blue for the, what's the other thing called? The stuff that makes it look like you have cheekbones, whatever that is. I should have switched. I used purple for that and blue for the blush. I should have switched those. But I also put shadows over various other parts of her face, and I liked how that really made it look like she wasn't just a disc. And then I put some white over her pupils and eyes so that it looked like they were kind of like that deep sea creature where they don't work very well and they're kind of cloudy and misty, and so you feel like she's mainly seeing you via magic, not necessarily by her actual eyes. And here's me going crazy with the gel pen some more. So thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this. I hope you enjoy seeing it. My next ones from this series I plan to be up on October 31st, and then 2 more in November. And I'm also going to be taking part in the Great Pumpkin Challenge on the 25th, so watch out for that. And I'll see you then. Bye!